and welcome to Meet the Authors. I'm Whitnie Wiley, and we are here talking to authors and talking about the powerful books that they write and how we can inspire you to growth and transformation. And so today I have with me an author that we've actually had on the program before. She's a seven-time best-selling author, international award-winning speaker, customer service expert. She is a friend of mine, a mastermind partner. We go back now like 5 years, I believe. And she's here to share her insights from her latest book, A Service Driven Seller, which teaches us how serving better, not selling harder, can drive unstoppable success. Welcome, Sheryl Mays. How are you?
Thank you, Whitney. I'm always excited to join you, and it has been a very long time that we have been friends.
You know what? You've had a couple of books. We've done some projects together. We have a mastermind group. We've done some projects with the rest of the members of the mastermind. And so it's always exciting to talk to you. You are certainly busy, right? When you shared with us that you had finished a book that I don't think that you told us you were writing. It's sort of in the cover of darkness. But tell us about the book and why you felt like you needed to write this book.
Absolutely. So this started 3 years ago. And in some of our conversations, I have always said, I'm going to put a book out on customer service. And, for a number of reasons. Number one, because that's my area of focus. Secondly, is because undergirded in that is one of my passions, which is to provide kindness to one another. How are we better at serving others instead of being so pragmatic about our approaches? And so this has been in the works for 3 years, and I kept saying, it's coming out next year. It's coming out next year. And so I said, well, let me stop saying it and do it.
Well, I'm going to say that you've inspired me because I have a couple of projects I've been working on for a while and saying the exact same years, coming. And there comes a point in time where you have to just say enough is enough. I'm going to stop saying it's coming. I'm going to sit down, do the hard work, and make it happen. And as you spent the time writing and thinking about hard work, I don't think that customer service should be that difficult, but somehow there seems to be a disconnect in the process of getting people who are in the business of customer service to deliver, right, exemplary service. And so how do I want to put this? Or what can you share? Or what is the underlying message here for businesses that can help them take their customer service to the next level?
What's so interesting about what you said, because it is very simple, right? In our minds, customer service is what I like to call a timeless principle. And so in understanding that, it's interesting that we see companies that are exceptional. They provide exceptional service. We see it all the time. And yet we see the other companies that do not provide exceptional service. And so then it becomes, if I want to stay in business, and I want to be that company that says, hey, we've been here for 150 years, right? That doesn't just happen because you have a good product. And because everybody has similar products, if not the same products. So then it goes to the next level is, how are you now interacting? Right? How are you showing your customers that you feel valued and appreciated? And so as easy as a concept it is, I've spoken to numerous people, and I have trainings on a regular basis for just basic customer service, and of course adding different ideologies within it. And it's amazing to me how many individuals say, I've never had customer service training. I just know it's nice is what we are told to do. And so they've never had training in communication. How do I take negative situations and turn them around into positive? How do I not get stressed out myself? How do I become a positive professional image that warrants my customers feel valued and appreciated, because we know that then drives their behavior. And so I like to think about customer service as that superpower that is also a competitive advantage in whatever industry you're in.
So why do you think then there's a lack of training? So companies, in almost every company, I can't think of any, certainly major brand, and all the business owners that I know, everyone has a brand promise, right? There's something that they are purporting to do. And certainly major companies, if you look at their value statements, if you look at their mission, they're often talking about what they're doing for their customers, their clients, or their constituents, as it applies to those that they serve. And so they know that they're in the business of serving along with selling. So why is there a disconnect? What's missing before we start diving into what you can do or how you can help them to improve what it is they are doing or not doing?
It's such an interesting question, right? What's missing that this is not in the forefront of everyone's decision, that this is not in the forefront of everyone's improvement, new and improved things that they bring to the table. And so I look at it like this, and in clients that I've dealt with, in conversations that I've had when I'm collecting data, or I'm just inquisitive about customer service and how people are treated and how they would like to be treated. And so I like to consider myself the insider, because I'm listening and I'm really putting this and matching it to data and statistics. And so there's a couple of things. Number one is that there has to be continuous communication from the top, right? That continuously flows. Now, we've got amazing leaders, right? So we can't say it's a leadership issue all the time. Sometimes, yes, right? But we can't say that that's all the time, because we have some amazing leaders that are in companies and they're showcased and, they're highlighted and those types of things. But here's what happens is when the communication isn't as frequent. Right? So when things become second nature to people, go, oh, they know that. So we don't have to keep talking about it. Right? Or, that's simple stuff. That's just basic information. We don't have to keep spending money training on the basics. But what keeps us grounded? Right? So, and we're going to talk about this in a minute when I start to talk about the flywheel principle, which is not new. I did not create it, but I have adapted. I've done a readaptation to it.
Okay.
And so what is this thing that allows us to continuously have this momentum so that it doesn't fall, it doesn't fall off of people's minds? It continuously is in every meeting that is attended. There's an element of customer service. In every conversation that's had in the hallway, right? There should be conversations about, how are we communicating? What's customer service? What are you hearing? And so I spent a lot of time in my corporate managing to numbers. And we hear that all the time, right? We got to make the numbers. We need to, our bottom line is increased only by increasing the numbers. Well, behind every number, there's a pulse that is actually moving that dial. So how do we motivate the pulse so that my focus on the relationship aspect doesn't allow me to focus on getting to that next number? So now what happens? My communication is more enhanced because I'm listening more. I'm asking better questions. I'm asking more relevant questions because I'm not on an agenda. I'm on building a relationship that's going to last. So now, as opposed to having one transactional customer, this customer is going to be with me for 5 years, 7 years. So what's the lifetime value per customer that warrants us to say, wait a second, we need not to solely focus on acquiring new customers. Let us spend time on how do we retain the customers that we already have? What is it that's going to allow them to stay with us, to go out, share their stories that we see all the time on Yelp and Google My Business, right? That writes those reviews, that sends people to us because they've heard about how we interact with our customers. I mean, we see companies do it all the time and they do it right.
It's interesting because I think to my experiences in positions that I've had over the course of my working life, right? And the times where I haven't thought of what I was doing as customer service, and then those positions where it was definitely customer focused, and therefore it was about the service, it was about the experience, right? I have worked in food service, retail. I've worked in schools. And I know you've had some similar experiences, right? Internal customers as opposed to external customers. And taking the time, sort of thinking about the training that I've had, uh, it didn't dawn on me until you just said it that I'd never really had any customer service training, right? And there was this expectation I can think of going through interviews, and they would ask questions about what would you do in this scenario, right? And you answer the question the way you think it should be answered so that you can get the job. And then of course, because I guess you've answered the question in such a way, they think you know what good customer service is, and therefore there is no additional a training or very little training. It's like, be kind, be, engaging, but no one really tells you what that means or how to deal with those challenging situations. So as I was listening to you, it just reminded me that as I learned on my own how to deliver good customer services and experiences, it came from those continuous conversations, as you were saying, right? Those continuous communications that really were about the organization and what it was about, the mission, the vision, the values, right? And our desire to have our customers or clients or members. I worked in, member-based organizations, and focus on what it is they needed, what it is they wanted, so that they would want to stay rather than looking elsewhere. So, just sort of wrapping up this discussion about why poor customer service exists and moving beyond the training piece, what are some of the other things that you help your clients do, or that you want the readers of your book to get from how to address the fact that they may have poor customer service and that there's another way?
You said two really important things that's going to tie into this question here. You talked about the internal customer and you talked about company values. So we can put a pin in it right there, right? So when we're talking about that internal customer, the team member, the colleague, the peer-to-peer leader, right? How are we interacting within that group there, right? How are we interacting within internal so that our employees feel valued, appreciated? Because when we think about how do we show outwardly that our core values are what we stand by, and whatever those core values are, right? Some of them are integrity, accountability. Those are the more common ones. How do we consistently stand by that? Now it allows us to go to the next level of helping our inside customers feel more empowered. And when people feel more empowered, that's based on a few things. Number one, they have the knowledge, right? That also comes from continuous training. The second thing is that they have the support of their leadership to say, make the best decision possible, given the considerations that you're under and the constraints that we have within our business. And then allowing them to feel good about being able to do that. Now we've created this idea of, how can I help my customer win? Right? Versus how do I save whatever funds we have? How do I save not giving up this product? How do I save not giving a refund? Right? How do I not do those things, as opposed to, how do I help this customer win, so that when they think about another service, they think about increasing purchases, and they want to tell a great story to someone else and go out in the community, that they think of us.
That's such a good point. I recently, just last week, had an experience. Super simple, right? Purchased something, food from one of our favorite places to get a quick meal. And so I placed the order online or through an app, go through the drive-through to get it. One of the items is not in the bag. I make an inquiry about the item that's missing from the bag. And he tells me and the reason that I did it through the app and did the drive-through is because there was a storm happening. He tells me that they cannot take the order through the drive-through window, and that I have to come inside in order to place the order to get the missing item. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. Right. And so just that thought, and I know that is not the way that this organization would purport to have their people handle this. But what it reminded me of, and what you just said, is even in my experiences, that better customer service, I know I delivered better customer service when I was empowered, right? When I was given the power to solve problems, as opposed to those positions where I had to go to someone else. And there's always levels, right? That you can't give everything to your frontline person. There are some things that at some point is escalation. But for the most part, what I'm hearing you say is that you need to empower your people to solve as much as they can for the customers when they're right there, rather than having someone say, yeah, not only am I not coming in, I'm not coming back. Right. And not having to always escalate something and send them to a manager in order to solve a problem, but giving them the ability to say, what can I do to help my customer or my client win right now?
Yeah, and that statement there also goes for what you just said, right? That internal customer, right? As we go up and up the level, you now have different customers. The thing that I realized is, as I ascended in my career, my customer base changed, right? Indirectly was the external customer, but directly was the folks that I was leading. Those then became my customers. And so as I continue to think about empowering that group of customers, right, it now becomes cultural. Now we're all communicating in the same way with the same understandings. And it's a lot easier to get things done because I know what that other department does. Right? Because when we talked about, going into the book in a moment and talking about the flywheel, that's really about how are we all operating to achieve this momentum so that we have this sustainable success. Because it can't happen if only 2 departments are doing it and the other 3 are like, nope, not me. Right? It doesn't happen that way. And so it always has to be a part of the communication. Because if it interests the leader, it should fascinate everyone else. But that doesn't happen unless it's talked about and it's continuous.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book, right? And in the book, The Service Driven Seller, you talk about this concept of the flywheel, and you talk about it as a key to sustainable sales success. Can you explain what that means?
Absolutely. First of all, let me state that it is a 2001 is when I believe the phrase was brought to folks' attention by Jim Collins and his book Good to Great. And so we take that concept, and earlier I talked about timeless principles. And so we take this flywheel concept and we bring it into today's world of high expectations, of there being more than 31 million small businesses just within the US alone. And how do we stand out? How do we, as companies of in the same industries, how do we get folks to recognize and identify our brand, have that sense of loyalty, where they are now going to continuously communicate, share, and come back again and again? And so the concept is really about unified, right? So how do we unifiably, is that even a word, unifiably? How do we unify? I might have just made something up for Oxford's dictionary. How do we unify our departments so that everyone is focusing on 3 areas? And I love it because it's simple, right? And again, we go back to the basics. And so it's about attracting, engaging, and delighting. So here's the thought process. So you have companies that, they are in a position where they have done something that is monumental and they've accelerated far quicker than their infrastructure would allow. And now something happens and it produces what is a clog in the flywheel, which means what? It now stops. The momentum is stopped because we now have this thing that's stopping us from moving forward. And that has to be repaired in order for us to get back to that place where we're churning. And so as I think about this concept, what is it that I can do so that we have this continuous momentum? It takes us back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Continuous communication, continuous training. Because now what happens? As I'm attracting strangers, I am now engaging with them as prospects. And I'm using the concept of delight to ensure that their customer experience is one that they want to repeat. Because when we think about human nature, right, the thing that makes me feel good, and is when the dopamine is released and we have the joy and the pleasure, I want more of that. It's just basic human nature. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go to the place that allowed me to have that feeling. Right? So, we can go back to all of our sales trainings that say people don't buy the what, they buy from the why. Well, this plays right into that. But now it's a principle that is unified within the organization and is going to continuously create the momentum. But here's the huge piece about it is that it's about continuous improvement. It's about continuous improvement. It's not about I got to the top and now, oh my gosh, what do we do to stay here? Because we don't have a plan in place. We just did the thing and the thing worked. And now what do we do? Right. So this concept, which I like to call a principle of the flywheel, is how do we remain? How do we have this continuous momentum? If we look at it from those 3 angles, because I continuously attract, then I engage, I delight. And this is a continuous process. Now I'm moving from stranger to prospect to customer to advocacy. And so that's a continuous cycle, which says we're continuing to move forward. We're continuing to enhance the bottom line. So when I report to my stakeholders, our success is on a continuum, and it's not at a spike and an ebb and a flow and an ebb and a flow, but it's more continuous. And I have a better judge on the trends now. So I can better judge what our future looks like. Where do we need these improvements? Which now, because we're continuously communicating internally, I now find out what kind of employees do I need to bring us to the next level? What kind of employees do we continuously help? Right? Where do we need to personally develop them? I'm paying more attention now at the things that really matter. So I'm serving versus creating another sales script.
Nice, nice. So, where do you help your clients, or where will the book direct your clients or the readers to strategy and steps that can help them design memorable customer journeys that create these connections and create the impressions that are needed to retain customers?
That's the great thing about this book. I love it because, excuse me, not only does it explain concepts for you, some concepts are familiar, but there's a new lens on it, a new spin.
Mm-hmm.
Some concepts you'll look at and go, well, why have I not heard of this before? And so as it gives you examples, and we can say we can talk about communication. What are my word choices when I'm communicating? And word choices that's going to move positive behavior. Right? There are certain things that we say all the time. It rolls off of our tongue, right? Because we're so accustomed to saying it. But what does it do? It sends a negative reaction. And so how am I more conscious of my word choicing? So it gives you the ability of really being able to reflect and reimagine, because each chapter ends with saying, hey, let's reflect on what you just learned, what you just read about, and reimagine what this would be like if you added this into your business strategy, your growth strategy. So rather you're a sales professional that is an individual contributor to a team, it's going to give you a lot of tips and strategies. If you are a director that's leading a team, it's going to give you an opportunity to have more unified communication so that everybody understands the goal of the organization. And if you're at the helm, you're at the top of this organization, it's going to let everyone in the organization know that the number one priority is ensuring that the customers are happy, because the impact brings them back, increases their frequency of purchasing, extends their services, gives them a story to share with their families, friends, and colleagues, and it makes them brand evangelists when they go out and they spread the good news about the business, and then everybody wins.
I love that.
I love this book. And the other piece to this, Whitnie, is that it all revolves around just being kind, right? Kindness. Yeah. Right? Because in business, kindness is profitable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what I hear from you and what I'm getting from the book is really, this is a holistic approach, right? This is not like piecemeal, but you can take the basis, the foundation, your values, your mission, your and then the training and the continuous communication, continuous improvement. And it's like looking at this, I don't know, 360, this whole the whole sphere, and not just trying to pick a piece here, pick a piece there, but looking at this as a continuum, and as I said, holistically, so that you can make the changes to that aspect that needs changing, tweaking, I think is the way you would describe it, right? It is part of creating these relationships and these lasting impressions.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a 360. Because here's the reality of what we know is that customer service is far beyond just problem solving.
No.
And when we hear customer service, that's automatically where we go to be a better problem solver. But there's a whole growth strategy around customer service being implemented in the magnitude of being service driven, and what that does not only for the external customer, but for the internal customer and for the stakeholders of the business as a whole. And so, when we go into, this year, what are all the trends that everybody is following? And what are the trends, for AI in our customers' experience? What are the trends for providing more exceptional services? Right? It's really going to boil down to, right? How are we continuously ensuring that our people understand that our customers are our number one priority, and every interaction that they have with them should come from our wished for outcome, and that's to make sure that that customer comes back and that they share the word.
I love that. I love that. So as we begin to wrap this up, is there a message that we haven't covered that you would like to communicate, or something that you want to reiterate?
Yeah, when we think about this concept of the flywheel, and we're great at naming things, and so that it stands out in people's minds. Right? What is it really saying? Right? When everybody is in sync, everybody is moving in the same direction. Right? The accumulation of force, of sustainability, comes from the force of the people. So rather that person is a live agent or a chat bot that was created by a live person, there still has to be those elements of how are we providing more value to our customers so that they feel the care and appreciation that warrants that they use us again and again and again. And that happens by continuously training. And that's why I love customer service, because it is not a one and done, and it should never be an annual anything. It should be continuous.
Love that. So how about just one actionable step that every business owner, every entrepreneur or sales professional can take away? What's one actionable step that you would recommend?
Think about yourself as a customer. And this is one of the questions that's in one of the final, one of the chapters as it ends, which each one's asking, reflect, and reimagine. Think about yourself as a customer, and think about two things that you might have purchased because of the why, right? Because of the why. And then ask yourself, how can you replicate that feeling for the customer, the client, the member that you're interacting with on a regular basis? What's the two things that you can do to help that feeling for your customers? And that's a leg of journey mapping, right? The emotional journey mapping is finding out the emotions and then adhering to those emotions to drive the behavior. But first, you got to think about what it feels like. So that is where I would start. And for additional, get the book, The Service Driven Seller, How Customer Care Wins Deals and Builds Loyalty.
See, that was going to be my final thought. That was going to be my action step. It's like, buy the book, The Service Driven Seller. Do you have a short link to the book? I did put the long Amazon link in the chat, but if you have a short link.
Oh, give me a second.
And while she's doing that, so you can go to, and it's pretty easy, right? It's on, you could buy it on Amazon. I typed in The Service Driven Seller, and it was the book that popped up immediately. So it's not one of those books where there are 10 books with the same title. It popped up immediately, and you can get, if you want to connect with Sheryl, you can do so at risingandshine.com, right? Risingandshine.com.
Correct.
And you can share also a couple of other things that you have available where people can connect with you. You've got an academy.
Yes, Master the Sale Academy. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find this link. Of course, it's not as readily available as I would like for it to be. Master the Academy, yes, is the online e-learning platform where all courses are geared around achieving those memorable, lasting impressions for customers.
And you can get to that through the risingandshine.com website.
Yes, I'm sorry. Now I am tasked with finding this. Yes, please go to the website and the academy is there. You'll also have access to the books. So the aforementioned books that Whitnie talked about also has a link there for those. So that is, I'm not having any luck. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. If they can get it through Amazon, they can get it on your website. Here is what they need, risingandshine.com. Do you have, as our last thing, do you have a class or course that you are promoting at the moment in addition to the book?
Yes, I have a boot camp. So every quarter, I offer this boot camp, and it's primarily for entrepreneurs, but it's also for individuals that are literally wanting to better understand who their customer is. And it's a boot camp. It's called the customer journey mapping, how to design your customer's experience. And it's 3 days. And you can also access that from my website. You would go to webinars, so risingandshine.com/webinars, and you'll be able to access the boot camp. Again, I do it once a quarter, so the next one will be coming up in a few weeks. You'll be able to register for that soon.
All right, perfect. Well,
Awesome.
Sheryl, thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure talking with you. You have great things going on. You're doing, I think, God's work, right? Helping people to be better at customer service. One of the things that drives me nuts is when I get poor customer service. And what I find is that it's usually because people are not listening, right? They don't care. And so having some training and encouraging business owners, corporate leaders, etc., to pay attention to what they're doing, to focus on internal examples of what good service looks like, so that the external implementation follow suit, right? You lead by example, and so that becomes an important thing. And then you talked about empowerment, knowledge, and support, and I think those are great things that help those of us, right? And we're still in the customer service business, and creating experiences that keep people coming back for more. So I just want to thank you for doing the work that you're doing, making the difference that you're making. And maybe I will share with you offline who I had that experience with last week, so that you can go and help them fix it.
Absolutely. And that's for anybody. Let them know that there is somebody that can help them.
I will do exactly that. So I wanted to thank you, Sheryl. I want to thank you for watching. If you watch this in real time live, or if you watch the replay, drop a note in the comment and reach out to Sheryl. Buy the book and then implement. Don't just buy the book, but implement the principles, the strategies that she shares, and do the work so that you can create the experiences that bring your customers and your clients back over and over again. All right. So until next time, take care.
Take care.